Welcome to Daily Persuasion Episode 2. We're going to talk about moral authority maxing. First of all, moral authority. What is that? Moral authority is where your values, your views, your perspectives are seen as the frame of reference, not just for yourself, but for others. With moral authority, are the point of origin for other people to look to for, well, what is correct? Well, what is right? What is fair? What is honest? What is good? What is righteous? You can imagine how important it is to have moral authority in your relationships, in your industry, in your business, in your household. But moral authority maxing is where you do anything and everything you can to hold it. Anything and everything. This can get a little interesting. In the news this week is still the aftermath of the presidential debate between Donald J. Trump and Kamala Harris, current vice president. Kamala Harris made a number of claims, for example, about firearms, firearm safety, firearm ownership, and one of the claims she put forward was that she is not, in any circumstance, going to be infringing upon Second Amendment rights of American citizens. This is quite interesting because there are numerous videos, many viral videos at this point, from before the debate, even a few weeks ago prior to the debate, I mean, even going back many years, and also posts of hers and things that she has said since then, which are the diametric opposite of someone who claims to be a firearm owner and support Second Amendment rights. For example, there's talk of a ban, there's talk of at-will federal investigation into anyone who is known to possess a firearm, and that being appropriate from her perspective. What's going on here? And how is this moral authority maxing? Moral authority versus moral authority maxing goes like this. When you have moral authority, you do what you believe to be right in order to hold the authority. And when you're wrong, okay, you'll change your mind, you'll give it up, you'll get after it, you will apologize, you'll do what it takes to hold the moral authority because that's important to you. You want to be seen, you want to be perceived, you want to be known, liked, and trusted as someone who does the right thing. That's moral authority. But moral authority maxing is slightly different from I'm someone who wants to do the right thing. Moral authority maxing is because of who I am, the fact that I do it makes it the right thing. You see the difference, don't you? I want to do the right thing. Because of who I am, the fact that I do it means it's the right thing. That is moral authority maxing. Now, this will receive accusations of hypocrisy, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. You're flip-flopping. Yeah, so what? Or completely ignoring it. There's a book that came out a few years ago called Win Bigly by Scott Adams, and the subtitle is critical for this. The subtitle is Persuasion in a World Where Facts Don't Matter. And if you're wanting to moral authority max, facts don't matter. The fact that Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters are chasing Kamala Harris with fact checks means that they're losing. Oh, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. Can you imagine if we did that? Can you imagine if our candidate said, we're going to send people after your guns, followed by, no, I've never said anything like that, to afterwards, we're coming for your guns. That's a little bit different, isn't it? Well, If you're the more authority, you can do whatever you want. They let you do it. So this is a persuasion, less of a technique or a tactic, more so of a frame, that it's not possible for you to be wrong. And that's a little dangerous unless you want absolute power. I'll say it again. This is dangerous unless you want absolute power, which is probably dangerous in and of itself and something that anyone willingly ought not have. Is this ability to say one thing, say the opposite, and say the opposite of that once again, and refuse to admit to it. Your supporters, your satellites, refuse to acknowledge that as well, but instead will, on your behalf, say what it takes to try to show how what you said, because you said it, is correct. That's different. That's different. I'm going to try to say what's correct versus because I've said it, it's correct. That's moral authority maxing. It's less about what you do being right and who you are being right. It's a way to build up a little cult of celebrity around yourself where you cannot be wrong. And if that's your moral authority maxed position, like I said, your supporters, your satellites, and if it's in a business situation or your personal brand situation, it's going to be your customers, it's going to be your fans, your followers, your 1,000 true fans, like you've seen written about out there. They're going to try to make sense of on your behalf, so you never even have to touch it. Try to make sense of the dissonant positions. For example, with firearm ownership, oh, absolutely. They might try and embrace an amplify technique to moral authority max for your behalf. Well, of course, she has said that there ought to be restrictions around this because if you can't exercise your rights with responsibility, you lose your rights. And the fact that she has exercised responsible firearm ownership means she gets to keep those rights. And if you say something online out there that we deem to be hate speech, disinformation, or misinformation, then we can send the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to your front door for a mandatory home check. Unlock your gun vault, please. We need to see what's in there. We need to make a record of it. We might need to confiscate it if you said something that is naughty online. That would be irresponsible citizenship and therefore irresponsible firearm ownership. So you don't get to keep your firearms in that case. That makes perfect sense. So it's a little embracing, amplifying. It's embracing the seeming contradictions here. And it's amplifying the message that you really want to create. That is moral authority maxing. But the key is never, ever apologizing, never admitting you're wrong, never acknowledging that you've changed your mind on issues. Remember, moral authority, again, is I'm someone who tries to do the right thing. I don't get it right every single time I try to do the right thing. Moral authority maxing is because it's me saying it's correct, because it's me doing it, it's right. So you can do things that are a little sketchy. You can say things that are diametrically opposed, and it doesn't matter so long as you hold the frame of moral authority maxing. Can you think of a time when this is, in fact, ethical to do, when it is, in fact, moral? And this is the great irony. Moral authority maxing seems like it's a bit immoral, or at least the person doing it would lose all moral authority. So there are risks to this persuasion. What I am not doing is saying, see what Kamala Harris is up to, go and do likewise. I'm not necessarily saying that. I am telling you it's an option. It's an option. That's why that's one of the reasons why, at the time of this recording of this video, Kamala Harris is so close to former President Donald Trump in the polls, is because fact checks don't matter. We live in a world where facts don't matter. We live in a world where fact checks don't matter, really, either. Or at least they only work from one perspective. And that is the one who doesn't have as many satellites or as many people who are in the mainstream discourse, easing away the cognitive dissonance of people hearing their candidates say one thing and then another. Because, of course, so many in the media are in for Kamala Harris, right? ABC News was the host of the presidential debate. And perhaps you have seen the breakdown where more than 90% of all coverage of Kamala Harris on ABC News has been positive, where 90% approximately of all coverage of Donald Trump has been negative. So it helps to have powerful satellites. Now, satellites, of course, are those things that orbit you, your orbiters who do the communication for you, who send out the signals or bounce back the signals on your behalf. Some joked that the presidential debate was 3-on-1, right? The Kamala and the two moderators from ABC News against Donald Trump, and that's I think that's fair from any, even a nonpartisan perspective. I think that's fair. And authority is a position where someone looks up to you. Moral authority is where they look up to you for what is right. And you lose it unless you moral authority max like Kamala Harris. Another aspect of this is to never confront your past in public. One of the criticisms or critiques of Kamala Harris is that she is considered a DEI candidate, standing for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which also stands for DEI didn't earn it. It is known that she initially and perhaps ultimately reached the position that she did because of an illicit relationship. And leveraging that in order to attain the status that she did, first as a senator and then as a vice presidential nominee and then as the vice president. What do you not see her doing? You do not see or hear Kamala Harris defending herself against that accusation. She just completely ignores it. Completely ignores it. One of the, from the Trump supporter perspective, one of the annoyances that those individuals have is that Trump, it seems, rushes to defend himself. Which does what? It gives energy to that point, to that claim, to that accusation that weakens his frame of moral authority. Because he's stepping out of that perspective to go respond to an attack or to a criticism or to a critique or to an insult. This is not moral authority maxing. This is moral authority diminishing. Because now you're chasing after someone else attempting to diminish your moral authority, and you feel like you have to defend yourself. If you feel like you have to rush to defend yourself, contrast how that feels to you don't freaking care. You don't have to defend yourself because you're such an authority. You're such a righteous moral agent. It's beneath you to have to defend yourself. Why would you even respond to those criticisms, those critiques, those insults? This has been an interesting little conversation here today, hasn't it? Moral authority maxing. High risk, high reward. Because it works. But you lose actual moral authority, from my perspective, to do it. What we can say, regardless, is it is unwise to chase the accusations, to rush to defend yourself. Best to ignore, best let it go, and not give energy to that, unless you're going to embrace it and say yes, and amplify it to show how you were right, in fact, all along. it's called we do a little moral authority maxing.